Uh, but what really gets me is they finally rediscovered the concept of the basic power up. And
Took 'em
everyone
10
thinks
years.
this is such a novel thing. It's so new that they're doing what they were doing in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, isn't it?
It's been that long, hasn't it?
But you know what? I'm actually impressed because it seems like power-ups in this game actually act more like power-ups than even the ones in Galaxy 2 do. Hear me out. Galaxy 2's power-ups actually act more like level-specific gimmicks than actual power-ups in the sense that, say, Super Mario Brothers 3 or New Super Mario Brothers Wii
Well, you
did.
definitely have to use them. You can't like not use Yoshi to get to a certain star sometimes. So
It's like it's a Spring Mario mission. You have to use Spring Mario. It's a B Mario mission. You're using B Mario. It's a Flame Mario mission. You have to use Flame Mario. You know, you know what? I don't mind that, but you know, I like power-ups that feel like power-ups, and you can use them in places
You like
where
power-ups that are not
necessarily
necessary to finish the level.
not necessary, but that they help. Not helicopter hat help, mind you, but help. And you can pick and choose based on the situation, you know. It doesn't feel quite that freeform from what I can tell, but at the same time, it's not mandatory. And this pleases me.
I guess the only gripe I could tell from the footage is that they're kind of using the old Heroes Egg Robo design again.
Yeah, but even that...
It looks better than the Egg Robo in that game, but they're kind of going back to that look, so...
Well, actually, I've been watching the footage, and I've been looking at the Egg Robos, and, well, for one thing, there seem to be badniks mixed in with the Egg Robos, with the Egg Pawns, that is. So, Sweet Mountain has a bee badnik that shoots at you like the buzzers do. So, and there have been sightings of other badniks in like screenshots and stuff. So apart from that, the egg pawns actually seem to have aesthetic character in this one. It's like in the first stage, you got these egg pawns waving welcome signs at you, and you blow them up like the asshole that you are.
Truly, this is badass.
And there are egg pawns with egg beaters, and in Sweet Mountain they have like little chef's hats on. It's just charming. And now when I think about it, for the lighthearted, toony, surreal tone, actually now that I think about it, the orange-colored, toony Heroes egg pawns actually fit slightly better than the Unleashed model. I didn't think so at first, but when I thought about it, you know what? I just think it fits, and I don't think the Unleashed egg pawns would have been able to pull off egg beaters and chef's hats and welcome signs. You know what I'm saying? As much as I liked those egg pawns.
yeah, Eggman's minions need to have some personality, and I always thought the problem with Sonic 06 and with Sonic Unleashed, all his robots were like stainless steel, big things. I don't know. I like the badniks. I like the colorful enemies.
They're too generic.
The most interesting thing about the egg pawns on Unleashed was a completely useless feature where their hands could break off and become robots of their own that posed absolutely zero threat to the player. and according to the description, their hands would often disagree with the bodies. So
That's
yeah,
just nightmare fuel.
it's a nice factoid, but it doesn't really do much for the game, you know, and you barely notice it. But I like the idea. That's the most interesting thing I can think of. But seeing their personality from what and we've only seen like the first two stages. I'm wondering what they'll do with the egg pawns in future stages to keep them with a theme.
Yeah, they'll think of something.
Yeah. It looks like variety is going to be a bigger part this time because let's face it, Sonic Unleashed day stages, Hellfire Comms eventually got around to saying the same thing, but there's not much variety between them. It's basically the same thing with a different skin and a slightly higher difficulty rating each time. So in that sense, you know, it's kind of shallow.
What do you think Sonic Colors would need to do to differentiate itself, but to make it, you know, challenging, but at the same time more preferable?
Well, from what I'm seeing, it's already doing a lot of things right. It's first of all, the 2D sections are infinitely better, even in the beginning stages. I can tell this because in Unleashed, this was my biggest problem with the day stages was the 2D sections, which are supposed to be some kind of retro throwback, at least in the main story stages. Okay, I'll do that. Hang on, sorry. I need to need to turn off my air conditioner. Back in half a second.
I think what he's going to say is that they didn't really do as much as we had thought. They were kind of short, kind of simple.
I can't just not be interrupted during this E3 chat, can I? If it's not manual labor, it's air conditioners.
I think the one problem with the 2D sections of
They're
Unleashed
boost
was that
happy and memorization jump filled, you know?
well, even the parts that weren't boost happy, like the ones where you have to take slow hops to small platforms, Sonic's so slippery that it just felt really awkward at times.
Yeah, but
He's very stiff.
Those parts aren't even in the mandatory stages, though. So, yeah. But in the main story stages, it's basically Sonic Rush with fewer alternative paths and more memorization. And you know, it's not unfun. It's just, it's the weakest part of the formula, in my humblest opinion. And they're really upping their game as far as the 2D sections go, because you got hidden areas, stuff to explore. You got the platforming as well as the speed. You know, they're trying to play to 2D Sonic's actual strengths, and leaving the mindless speeds sections to the part of the game where the camera's facing forward, so you can see where you're going.
Well, based off the footage I've seen, it looked like Sonic had a double jump. Did anybody catch that?
He does, actually. He has this very slight double jump that's just a sort of a corrective thing, and that's his double jump when he's not homing. From what I can tell, it looks like the air dash is on the boost button, and the homing attack is on the jump button, which is a much more intelligent control mapping than Unleashed had, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. He does have the air boost, and I think it's on the same button as the air dash. So you probably won't be able to do one you won't have to be able to do an ordinary air dash while you have boost energy. But, you know, I'll have to confirm what the controls are like with someone who's played it at Retro before I actually say that. So, you know, don't quote me on that point. Let me see, what else? The motion controls are actually really limited. Isn't
it just waggle to activate the power-ups?
Flick the Wiimote to activate the Wisp powers that aren't the boost, and to drift, tilt the nunchuck.
Both things the Wii Remote is perfectly capable of.
Yes. And it's not overbearing, as was the Storybook series controls. And it handles like a dream by all appearances, unlike Unleashed Wii. In other words, this is going to be the first like real polished feeling Sonic game to appear on the system. So that's not, you know, Virtual Console or something. And you know, that's awesome. But you know, it's also it's an exclusive to the system, and that surprised me.
Does anyone else feel a little disheartened though that they're coming out with so many Sonic titles in such quick succession?
Their plan was obviously to release Sonic 4 in the summer. That much is certain. But after the quote-unquote leak and all the feedback, I think they realized we don't want to screw Sonic 4 up at all. That is the last game we can afford to screw up pretty much with the fan base. So even if they're coming out at near the same time, we'd rather make the games good than worry about market share.
Like I don't count Sonic Adventure being re-released for the Xbox Live, because that's an already existing game. You know, that's just a nice feature.
Well, just to break this down to a technical level, Sonic 4. Well, first of all, it's being outsourced to DIMS, so already it's not like they're spreading their resources too thin. But it's a 2D like 4-zone game that takes how many people? You know what I'm saying?
I understand. I understand that it wouldn't take. Well, it shouldn't take that long to develop, considering the medium.
Sonic Free Riders, on the other hand, apart from it's a download-only game itself too, but at its base, it seems to be a Sonic Riders port that's been
with added motion control.
With motion control, new tracks and characters, that kind of thing. That's what it looks like. So from a technical standpoint, that probably isn't taking them a whole lot of resources to do either. So that's two of the titles so far that aren't actually stretching Sega